What happens when a former president walks straight into the lion's den of daytime television and finds himself face to face with one of his harshest critics? The atmosphere inside the studio was so tense you could cut it with a knife, and what unfolded left the entire audience stunned. The lights of the View studio seemed brighter than ever as Donald Trump adjusted his tie and settled into the guest chair. Before him sat the iconic round table, now feeling less like a set and more like a battlefield, with Joy Behar positioned directly across from him, her eyes gleaming in anticipation of a verbal showdown. Well, Joy began, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she shuffled through her notes. Look who decided to grace us with his presence today, the man who thinks Twitter is a governing tool. Trump leaned back in his chair with a smirk. Joy. Still bitter, I see. I've been on many shows, the best shows with incredible ratings. And I have to say, this one, he gestured around the studio, could really use some help in that department. Nervous laughter rippled through the audience while others shifted uncomfortably. Whoopi Goldberg, seated at the head of the table, tried to calm the waters. Okay, let's keep this civil, everyone. We're here to have a conversation. But Joy wasn't interested in civility. Leaning forward, her voice sharpened. Civil. You want to talk about civil? Let's talk about how civil it was when you spent years questioning where Obama was born. Let's talk about how civil that was. Trump's posture stiffened, his smirk vanishing. That's fake news, Joy, complete fake news. I never, and I mean never, spent years on that. That's just another one of your lies the media loves to spread. Joy pounced, her voice gaining momentum. So all those interviews, all those tweets, all those press conferences where you demanded to see his birth certificate, that was just our imagination? The studio fell silent except for the hum of the cameras. Trump's face flushed red, a sign his patience was thinning. You know what, Joy? You're a very nasty person. Very nasty and frankly very unfair. I came here thinking we could have a nice conversation. Maybe talk about the incredible things I accomplished as president. The economy, the jobs. But instead you want to attack me with lies. Joy's eyes lit up, seizing the opening. Nasty? I'm nasty for asking you about things you actually said and did? That's rich coming from someone who has called women pigs, dogs, slobs. Should I continue? Trump bristled, pointing across the table. That is absolutely false. I have tremendous respect for women, tremendous. I've hired more women in executive positions than probably any president in history. But you don't want to talk about that because it doesn't fit your narrative. Joy didn't flinch. Your narrative is exactly what I'm talking about. The things that come out of your own mouth. Are you telling me all those recordings, all those videos are fake too? Trump's voice rose, frustration clear. Many of them were taken out of context. People like you twist little snippets to make me look bad. It's very dishonest, very corrupt. The tension was now electric. Audience members leaned forward in fascination while others shrank back, visibly uncomfortable. Cameras cut between Trump's animated gestures and Joy's unwavering stare. Corrupt? Joy repeated, her voice dripping with disbelief. You want to talk about corrupt? Let's talk about all those investigations, all those indictments. Witch hunts, Trump snapped, slamming his hand on the table so hard the water glasses rattled. Complete and total witch hunts orchestrated by the radical left and people like you who can't accept that I won. That I was a successful president, probably the most successful in the history of our country. Joy shot back instantly. The most successful at what? At dividing the country? At spreading conspiracy theories? Trump fired back without hesitation. At bringing back jobs Obama said would never return. At securing the border. At rebuilding the military. At making incredible trade deals. He leaned forward, glaring at Joy. But you don't want to talk about any of that. Because you're suffering from what I call Trump derangement syndrome. The phrase hung heavy in the air, daring anyone at the table to respond. Joy's face flushed crimson, and for a brief moment, the entire studio held its breath in silence. Then she began to laugh, not the light-hearted kind, but a sharp, cutting laugh that signaled she was preparing to deliver a devastating blow. Trump derangement syndrome, she repeated slowly, savoring each word. That's what you call holding you accountable for your actions? That's what you call asking tough questions? Well, if wanting a president who tells the truth is deranged, then I guess I'm proudly deranged. Trump's face was now visibly red, his composure slipping. You wouldn't know the truth if it hit you in the face. You, Joy, and this whole show, you're just a bunch of angry, Bitter women who can't stand the fact that I accomplished more in 4 years than most presidents do in 8. Gasps echoed through the studio, the bluntness of his words stunning even the other co-hosts. But Joy was far from finished. Angry, bitter women? She shot back, her voice rising to a piercing pitch. She stood from her chair, hands pressed firmly on the table as she leaned toward him. Let me tell you about angry and bitter. Angry is watching someone tear down decades of democratic norms. Bitter is watching someone who lost an election refuse to accept the results and then claim the whole system is rigged. Trump shot to his feet as well, matching her stance. I didn't lose anything, Joy. That election was stolen, completely stolen, and everybody knows it. Even you know it. You're just too dishonest to admit it. Joy's voice cracked with incredulity. 60 courts, including judges you appointed, said otherwise. Your own attorney general said otherwise. Your own vice president said otherwise. But somehow everybody else is wrong except you. Bill Barr was weak, Trump barked, his voice booming across the studio. Very weak. And Mike Pence, don't even get me started on Mike Pence, he choked. He had the chance to do the right thing and he choked. Whoopi Goldberg tried to intervene, her voice strained. Okay, everybody, please sit down. This is getting out of hand. But neither Trump nor Joy was listening. They were locked in a verbal death match, each exchange sharper and louder than the last. The right thing? Joy practically screamed. The right thing was following the Constitution, something you clearly never bothered to read during your 4 years in office. I know the Constitution better than you ever will, Trump thundered, pointing his finger across the table. I took an oath to defend it, more than I can say for the corrupt politicians and media hacks who tried to destroy my presidency from day one. Joy let out a bitter laugh. You destroyed it yourself with your lies, your Twitter tantrums, your complete inability to take responsibility for anything. The audience grew restless. Some stood to get a better view, while others headed for the exits. Security staff shifted nervously along the edges of the set, unsure whether to intervene. Twitter tantrums? Trump shouted, his voice at a near roar. I used Twitter to speak directly to the American people because I couldn't trust the fake news media to tell the truth. And you know what? It worked. Millions wanted to hear from me unfiltered without people like you twisting everything. People like me? Joy's eyes blazed. You mean people who ask questions? People who fact-check? People who don't just roll over and let you say whatever you want unchecked? I mean people who hate America, Trump fired back without hesitation. People who hate success, who hate winners, who hate everything that makes this country great. The studio erupted. Half the audience booed while the other half cheered. The other co-hosts tried to interject, but their voices were drowned in the chaos. Camera operators scrambled, catching every explosive moment from every angle. I hate America? Joy shouted, her face red with fury. I've lived here my whole life. I've worked here, raised my family here, paid my taxes here. But because I don't worship at the altar of Donald Trump, that makes me unpatriotic. When you spend every single day attacking the President of the United States, yes, it makes you unpatriotic, Trump snapped. When you celebrate every fake investigation, every bogus impeachment, every attempt to destroy a duly elected president, yes, that makes you unpatriotic. Fake investigations? Joy's voice trembled with rage. People went to prison, Trump. Your campaign manager went to prison. Your personal lawyer went to prison. Your national security advisor went to prison. Were they all fake too? Witch hunts, Trump insisted, though his voice cracked ever so slightly. Every single one of them. Political persecution at its worst. They went after good people, destroyed their lives, bankrupted them all to get to me. Joy sensed his weakness and pressed harder. Or maybe, just maybe, they broke the law. Maybe when you surround yourself with criminals, criminal things happen, Joy said coldly. Trump's reply came in a dangerously quiet tone, sharper than any shout. You're calling me a criminal? I'm calling you someone who has been investigated more than any politician in American history, Joy shot back, her voice equally low but steady as steel. And where there's that much smoke, there's usually fire. For a long moment, Trump just stared at her, breathing heavily. The studio was deathly silent, every person sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Even the camera crew seemed frozen, barely daring to move. Then Trump finally spoke, his voice a whisper that carried through the entire room. You know what, Joy? I've been on a lot of shows. Good shows, bad shows, shows with professional hosts, and shows with complete amateurs. But I have never, and I mean never, been disrespected like this. Joy didn't blink. Maybe that's because most hosts are too intimidated to ask you real questions. Maybe they're too worried about access or ratings or whatever. But I'm not intimidated by you, Donald. I never have been, and I never will be. That's your mistake, Trump replied, his voice gaining strength. Because I don't have to sit here and listen to this garbage. I don't have to be lectured by someone whose biggest accomplishment in life is sitting behind a desk and whining about successful people. The insult landed hard. Joy's face twisted with fury. My biggest accomplishment? I've entertained people for decades. I've made them laugh, made them think, given them a voice when they felt voiceless. What have you done besides inherit money and lose it? Lose it? Trump exploded, his composure shattering. I built a business empire worth billions. I created thousands of jobs. I became president of the United States. What have you done besides sit here and complain? I've told the truth, Joy shot back instantly. Every single day I've told the truth about you, about your administration, about your complete unfitness for office. And apparently that's more than you can handle. Trump was shaking now, whether from rage or something deeper. The truth? You wouldn't know the truth if it was stamped on your forehead. Everything you say is a lie. Everything you report is fake news. Everything about this show is a disgrace. A complete and total disgrace. Joy's voice rose again, the crescendo everyone in the studio had been waiting for. You want to talk about disgrace? You want to talk about disgrace? She leaned forward, eyes burning into him. The real disgrace is a president who told people to inject bleach to cure a pandemic. The real disgrace is a president who mocked a disabled reporter on national television. The real disgrace is a president who separated children from their families at the border, and then lost track of where those children went. Trump's face turned a deep shade of purple, veins standing out on his forehead. That is fake news, all of it. Completely fake news. I never told anyone to inject bleach. That was a lie manufactured by the corrupt media. And the border? Obama built those cages, not me. Obama separated those families, not me. Joy threw her hands up, exasperated. It's always Obama, isn't it? Obama made you do it. Obama forced you to say those things. Obama somehow controlled your Twitter account for 4 years and made you post all those insane tweets. My tweets were not insane, Trump shouted, his voice cracking with emotion. My tweets were honest. They told the American people the truth that the fake news media refused to report. Oh yes, Joy sneered, her sarcasm cutting like a blade. Like the truth about windmills causing cancer, or the truth about raking forests to prevent fires, or the truth about how you invented the phrase prime the pump. I did phenomenal things as president, Trump roared, ignoring her examples. Phenomenal things that you and your friends in the media refuse to acknowledge because you're too busy spreading hate and division. Joy's bitter laugh echoed across the studio. That's rich coming from someone who built an entire political career on dividing people, on making them afraid of each other, on convincing them their neighbors were their enemies. By now, the other co-hosts had given up trying to intervene. They sat in stunned silence as the duel escalated. Security edged closer to the table, sensing this confrontation was spiraling to a dangerous climax. Trump jabbed a finger toward Joy's face, his voice seething with venom. You know what you are, Joy? You're a nasty, vicious person who gets her kicks from attacking people more successful than you'll ever be. This whole show is just a platform for bitter, washed-up has-beens to attack people who actually matter. The studio gasped as one. Joy's mouth fell open, not in shock but in sheer disbelief at the audacity of his words. When she finally spoke, her voice was icy calm, far more dangerous than her earlier shouting. Has-beens? She said slowly. People who actually matter. She paused, letting her words hang heavy in the air before delivering the blow. Let me tell you what matters, Donald. What matters is democracy. What matters is the rule of law. What matters is truth. And what matters is that someday, hopefully soon, you'll face the consequences of your actions like any other citizen in this country. Trump's entire body trembled as he echoed the word back at her, his voice sharp and bitter. Consequences? The only consequences here are for the American people who have to watch garbage like this show and listen to hateful people like you spread lies and propaganda. Joy straightened, her voice gaining power with each word. Everything I've said about you can be backed up with video evidence, with documentation, with testimony under oath. But you call it lies because the truth is inconvenient for your narrative. Trump's response came in a furious roar. My narrative is success. My narrative is winning, something you people know nothing about. My narrative is making America great again, which I did, and which you spent 4 years trying to destroy. Joy didn't flinch. Your narrative is chaos. Your narrative is corruption. Your narrative is convincing millions of Americans they can't trust their own elections, their own institutions, their own neighbors. Your narrative nearly destroyed American democracy. Trump shot back instantly, his face flushed with rage. I saved American democracy. I exposed the deep state, the corrupt media, the rigged system designed to keep outsiders like me from winning. Joy's voice hit a new peak. Outsider? You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You inherited hundreds of millions of dollars. You lived in a golden tower with your name plastered on it. What exactly is outsider about that? Trump began pacing behind his chair, his agitation spilling over. I didn't need to run for president, Joy. I had a great life, a tremendous business, incredible success. I ran because I love this country, because I wanted to make it better. Joy's retort cut through him like a blade. No, you ran because you're a narcissist who can't stand not being the center of attention. You ran because you needed the rallies, the chants, the constant validation. You turned the presidency into a reality show with yourself as the star. The audience was on their feet now, some cheering, some booing, most staring in stunned disbelief at the chaos unraveling before them. The noise was deafening, but neither Trump nor Joy noticed. Trump's voice cracked as he shouted, "A reality show? I made historic peace deals. I moved our embassy to Jerusalem. I rebuilt our military. I made incredible trade deals. But you don't care about any of that because all you care about is attacking me." Joy delivered her final words with razor-sharp precision. What I care about is accountability. What I care about is making sure no one, not even a former president, is above the law. What I care about is ensuring that what happened these past few years never happens again to our democracy. Trump stared at her, chest heaving, face twisted with fury. The studio plunged into silence except for the hum of the cameras and the heavy sound of their breathing. Then, in one swift motion, Trump ripped off his microphone. It clattered to the floor with a sharp crack that echoed through the studio. His voice shook with rage as he snarled, "You know what, Joy? I don't have to sit here and listen to this garbage from a third-rate comedian who peaked 30 years ago. This show is a joke. You're a joke. And this whole network is a complete waste of time." He stormed toward the exit, but Joy's voice followed him like a dagger. "Running away, Donald? That's what you do when someone asks tough questions, isn't it? You run." Trump spun around, his face twisted in fury. "I'm not running from anything. I'm walking away from crazy people who live in an alternate reality. Good luck with your failing show and your non-existent ratings." "Our ratings are just fine," Joy shot back as he neared the door. "But thanks for the boost. This is going to be our most watched episode ever." Trump stopped at the exit, glaring one last time. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Joy, because when I'm back in office, fake news shows like this one are going to have a very hard time spreading their lies and hatred." With that, he disappeared through the exit, leaving behind a studio filled with stunned silence and the echo of his footsteps fading down the hallway. Joy stood tall for a moment, chest rising and falling, then slowly sank back into her chair. The studio remained eerily quiet until she finally broke the tension. "Well," she said, her voice still trembling with adrenaline, "I guess that's what happens when you ask follow-up questions." The audience erupted, applause, gasps, nervous laughter, while the cameras rolled, capturing every second of the most explosive daytime television interview in memory.